Welcome everyone to the Lofi Podcast. Today, my guest is Taki Brano. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Happy to finally have you along. We've been talking for a short while and seen what we can chat about on this episode. And so just to have you here is great to see.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So here, just to start off this episode, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are in the lo-fi scene, and so even who you are outside of it as well as a person?
Yeah, I am a stay-at-home dad and a full-time music producer. Lo-fi is probably nearest and dearest to my heart as far as, musical genres that I create go. But I do a lot of different stuff. I'm really heavy into like hip hop and different kinds of like progressive house, deep house. I do like a lot of pop songs. I like to work with singers and rappers. So I'm heavily involved in the sync world as well. But yeah, I live in Rhode Island. I have 2 boys, and we live with my wife, and we just kind of have a little life where she works from home too. So we're here all the time and just get to make music and be a dad all the time. It's pretty sweet. As far as lo-fi goes, it's like I said, it's just been very near and dear to my heart. So I've just always kind of naturally wanted to make that music. So I always keep that train going. It just for the love of it, really. I love collabing with people. It's probably my favorite aspect of music in general. Meeting people and kind of experiencing different things through music has been a cool thing to experience in life for sure. It's brought me a lot of places physically and career wise. And yeah, I'm just kind of doing that whole thing. I do like, always looking for like social media content, brand deals, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm just building my way.
No, that's great. And it's interesting to hear how both you and your wife like work from home, so like your family must be really close. And so yeah, no, that's great to hear. So with this being the Lo-Fi Podcast and all of that, so just focusing more on music now, could you tell us a little bit like how you got into music, and like your influences that you brought along this journey to like who you are today as a producer?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to make a long story not as long, I guess. I started my mom put me in piano lessons when I was young, probably like seven or eight. And I mean, I was a kid, so like I hated it back then. But then come teen years, I started discovering my own music. She would always play things in the house, and my dad would play things like the Beatles, and they loved like Frank Sinatra, stuff like that. So I was exposed to those especially. But then as I started getting into my own music, I really fell in love with, at first, like just mainstream rap, because like, being that age at that time of, American existence, you really couldn't escape mainstream music. So first fell in love with a lot of mainstream like rap and pop artists, but then I really got into a lot of like the underground hardcore, like post-hardcore it ended up becoming, but a lot of rock music. So like bands like some of the first ones I remember loving was like Seosin, but like with Anthony Green in the beginning. Coheed and Cambria. I'm actually wearing this shirt right now.
Right, yeah.
Bands like that. There's a few more that unfortunately I used to love, but things happen and people make decisions that kind of get them canceled. So those things happen. But from there, I really, really, really got into wanting to be in a band. And so I started, that was about the time like MySpace was getting big. So I started just meeting people on MySpace that also played instruments, and we started forming like little groups and stuff like that. My first band ever was called Valoria. And funny enough, actually, my friend Joey, who was a vocalist, he restarted that band recently, and they're like doing crazy stuff. But yeah, so from there, I kind of like, I already knew how to play keys, pretty okay, at least for, doing that kind of stuff. But we'd always have band practices where I lived. So people would like leave their gear. So I ended up teaching myself guitar and bass. Never drums really too much, but I mean, I love programming drums, but never like really learned how to like sit at a drum kit and properly play. But in teaching myself guitar and bass, it kind of got me into making my own music. And we went, I was in a band, we were called She's a Robot. And it's crazy to think about nowadays, but there was a band who was huge at the time called Attack Attack. And they had one of their guitarist singer's name was Johnny Frank. He's in a band now called Bill Murray. But a friend had a this is crazy thinking about this in 2025. We were like probably all in our early 20s, and a friend had just an email address for this dude. And so I went off my friend's word and I emailed this guy, Johnny Frank, and was like, hey, we want to record with you. And we're in Rhode Island. He's in Ohio. And so just on an email back and forth, our whole band got into a 15-passenger van and we drove all the way to Ohio to this dude's house. It could have been anybody. We could have driven up to a shack with nobody in it, like, but it ended up being him, and we paid him and he recorded. But from that experience, I noticed that like the gear he was recording us with, because he was getting like for the time like top quality, like we had never heard anything like this before. I only needed to spend like another like 50, maybe $100 to like get what he had for me to be able to produce my own stuff as what I considered as good. So, so that ended up being a pretty life-changing experience in and of itself, because that's what ended up getting me into that, and like recording people come over, let's do vocals, let's do guitars. And then I started learning like about beats, and over time, God, that I was like in and out of bands for a while. Like I was in a neo soul, like hip hop, like Latin fusion band for a while. I started a studio here with my buddy Kelwin, Kel Keys, shouts to Kel Keys. Because I was able to buy a house pretty early. I was 25 when we bought the house that we still live in. And so like it was just like a constant party house for a while after all the band stuff. Because I mean, you know, you're in your 20s and you own a house. It's like everybody come over and party. But I also like music, so let's record too. And I thought I was serious at the time. And just, you know, doing that whole thing. Then came 2020, and by that time I had a really good job with the state. I was working for the DHS, like processing like medical food stamp applications. Like it was a cushy job I really could have retired from, but I was just like miserable and soulless, and I just started hating the grind. I hated being in charge of like people's food, who can get food stamps, who can get medical. Like it was just weighing on me heavy. So my wife, like a lot of deliberation with my wife, because we had a newborn who was only a few months old, and childcare is where are you located, by the way?
I'm located in Ireland, so
Ireland.
just
Oh, okay.
yeah, across
So,
the
yeah.
pond.
Yeah, so healthcare, I'm sorry, childcare here is ridiculously expensive. Like I had a good job and it was going to take half my paycheck. Like every 2 weeks it was going to take half my paycheck. And I had, like I said, I had, you know, this studio I had built up, and I was confident at the time that I could quit. And if I was going to lose half my income from childcare anyway, I was like, oh, I can make up half my income if I really apply myself, even if it takes a little longer than I think. We had some money saved up. So I'm like, I'm just going to, you know, again, a lot of deliberation with my wife. We went back and forth, did all the scenarios and all that stuff. So we decided it'd be best for me to quit my job, stay home with my oldest during the day, and then at night have people come in, record them hourly, and just, you know, make as much money as I can. So that was the plan. And then literally it was like a week or 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit. So once the pandemic hit, we're looking around like we have a newborn. My new gig relies on people coming into the studio to be with me in a closed room. Like it was just not something we were willing to risk at the time, because especially at the beginning of COVID, it was scary because no one knew what was happening. So that at that time is really when I started like joining like lo-fi groups on Facebook. And a few years previous, my buddy Valor, shouts to Valor, showed me New Jobbies. And like from the second I heard New Jobbies, I had fallen in love. and it was funny too because it was just one of those like drunken party nights at my house recording music. He's like, oh, check this out, I think you'll like it, and it's like changed my life, that one listening experience. So again, shout to Valor on that. But um so it hit me so deeply that, and my wife loved it too. So like Feather by Nujabes is actually our wedding song. We danced to it, and yeah. Um, and so, yeah, it went really deep. So by the time I had left my job, the pandemic hit, I was in this lo-fi stuff. Something clicked inside me, and I was just like, I'm going to just like make the music that I love to hear. Because for the longest time, I was making music I thought I had to make and what it had to sound like. And I released like my first album, and that one is kind of like the starting point of my lo-fi like journey. And that was it. So that was a little bit actually before the pandemic when I released that. It was really the pandemic that solidified that was like the route I should take. So then I had released my second album with Tsunami Sounds called Second Sun. And by that time I had taken it serious to the point where I had features like Marcus D, HM Surf, Zito 88. I had become really good friends with Fred Pachi by that point. Trying to think, Theo Juarez is on that too. He's a good friend of mine as well. And then from there, I just kind of started learning the game. And I mean, we all know how the lo-fi game goes. So I moved away from albums, started just trying to find good labels to release singles with. And that eventually, luckily that brought me to, getting millions of streams. And comparatively in the lo-fi realm, I'm really not that like crazy as far as like number of streams and monthly listeners and stuff like that. But I also like, I don't put all of my musical effort into trying to get as many streams as possible as well. Because to me, it's it's like a concrete ceiling to me. So I'm always, like I said, I'm always looking for like brand deals, working in sync and stuff like that, trying to push it along. I make a lot of sample packs now. Like I work with BandLab. I have a Taki Brano sample pack on BandLab. I do social content for them and stuff like that. So it's just kind of bringing pieces together to, make enough money and survive.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, like, because your start with music was pretty much the same as where I started, where my mother sent me to do piano lessons around the age of 7, and then I didn't really like it at first. And then whenever I came into my teen years, I discovered, that there's other styles of music that I really enjoyed. And so I think like a lot of producers will sort of they'll be able to relate in that way.
Yeah. What musical genres was it for you that you got into?
So for me, like, I was very much a bit of a nerdy child. I liked film soundtracks and
Nice.
things like that, like movie soundtracks. And then sort of, yeah, I know, man. Like 12-year-old me was sitting listening to, like the Transformers soundtrack by Steve Jablonsky, man, like those were some of the best tracks that I enjoyed at that time. But then as time went on, I started to listening to more like rock, hard rock and blues rock.
Oh, cool.
So, like, I don't know, have you heard of Joe Bonamassa at all?
So I've heard that that's a one person, right?
Yeah, it is.
Heard that name before, but I've never listened to music by them.
Yeah, no, so like he's like a blues rock guitarist, that's like always touring around the States.
Oh, nice.
And so like just hearing him and so discovering these different genres of music was really interesting for me. And so yeah, then you mentioned too that you were listening to lots of different genres too, and in different bands as well, not necessarily lo-fi at the start of your music career.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. So do you think
sorry, I was gonna say too, like video game music was big for me too. Like Final Fantasy VII has one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Yeah, no, video game music is so good. Like there's so many hidden gems. But like coming to think that you're now doing lo-fi as well as sample packs and things like that. How do you think that like those other genres that you did in previous years influenced the lo-fi that you make today? Maybe?
That's a good question. It's a lot of ways. I mean, so like I said earlier too, one of probably my favorite thing about music is collaboration. And that's because, like, especially when you collaborate with a new person, if your head's in the right space, you're going to be taking information from that. You're going to be learning something from that, whether it's how somebody lines up their stacks in a DAW, or how they played something, or the way they communicate with you. You know what I mean? It could be anything. It, I think that as long as you go into everything with a learning aspect, I'm sorry, learning mindset, um, there's always something that's going to influence something down the line. You know what I mean? So it's hard to pinpoint, one thing that, from listening to, uh, you know, I don't know, Armor for Sleep brought into my latest beat. You know what I mean? But there is something, if that makes sense. Maybe it's a melody. You know what I mean? Like the way I think of melodies, or something like that. You know what I mean? It's so much, and to me, it all just kind of like melts together into what I am. You know?
Yeah, no, I can completely understand. It's kind of like it's almost like subconsciously becomes a part of you. So like, yeah, because I find that it's like all forms of art. It's not just music. Like, I mean, we could look at a painting, watch a movie, or, read some poetry or a book or anything. And like all forms of art can influence what we make in music, because it kind of all becomes a part of us. And so like all these different experiences through our life help us grow as musicians and producers.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I'm really into professional wrestling too, like WWE. And the what kind of to go on what you're saying is that they pay homage so much to the previous generations, and the things that people who are like, say, like a superstars in a certain position now, paying homage to people who were in that position 10, 20 years ago by recreating like spots, or like even like moves that they did and stuff like that. It's cool to see that, because what you're saying is does happen in all forms of art. I think pro wrestling's an art, but um it's cool because you get to see that in real time with that. And I think a lot of like the theatrics and the ideas and the thought process translate to music as well. Because I mean, like, you think about like entrance music and stuff like that. um just a side note.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like, I mean, we're paying homage in like the musicians who came before us and things like that. But taking influence from like lots of different things, I suppose, like even just life experience is one of those things that we can take and helps us helps our art grow. So I was thinking, like, with you being like a father and bringing up children and like that, has this experience, just shaped the art you create and help you grow as well?
Yeah, it like completely 180'd and turned me on my head as far as what I thought was me being like serious with music, and actually becoming serious about music. Because when it gets to the point where not only is my paycheck gone, but I also have mouths to feed and people I love who I don't want to let down, even though they're babies, it completely changes how you look at things and how you take work, how you move. I mean, again, as long as you're head's in the right place, I suppose. I'm sure there are parents out there who don't think that way, but it's something that I struggle with. Well, I less so now, since I've thankfully started seeing more positive things coming from the constant bricks being laid for the past like 5, 6 years. Um, it I lost my train of thought.
You're okay, don't
um,
worry.
oh, it became, first of all, especially in American society, being a man, it was emasculating to not be. And I understand that this is an old way of thinking, but still, being a man in this society, uh felt emasculating to not be the breadwinner of my household. So that took a lot of mental work to kind of become okay with, right? um and something that I would constantly toil in my head about is, am I being the best father I can be by not bringing in as much money to the household as I can for my kids? Because again, I had a good job and I left that. And now, we're post pandemic and I started a resale business, and I was making okay money, but I wasn't making what I was making then. Um, at least until music started to kind of take over that. But um, it, but like what I had to drill into my own head and what I had to realize, and through therapy too. Um, I still go to my therapist; he's great, but um, is setting the example for my kids that you can chase your dreams rather than setting an example where you have to be miserable and make money. I at least fingers crossed down the line, it'll be worth it. But I'm happy that I get to set that, uh, example for my kids, and I'm proud of my wife too for, buckling down the way that she has to make it really, really make it all possible. Um, but yeah, so that's my long way of
No, that's really, yeah, it's really beautiful to hear how like all of you as a family are just sticking together and just with that responsibility and that you love you have for your children, that drives you forward and motivates you in the art that you make. Yeah, so like just kind of like you could be stuck in a rut somewhere, right? And you're visualizing yourself in the future. Like you can see this art that you want to create, but you just want to step out and you want to go and make it, but you're kind of weary. Like what could happen? Like I mean, from your experience, you did it yourself, and it was at one of the most difficult times when the pandemic started that you quit your job and went full time with this music. So, is there any sort of words of encouragement or wisdom you could have for people?
as long as you're working steadfast toward your goal, and again, it doesn't always look like what you want it to look like. So my situation is that I was set up for that. That was the right time for that. If that had happened at any other time in my life, I wouldn't have been ready for it and I wouldn't be where I am now.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that that's what you, the listener, the viewer, needs to do now. Right now, maybe you need to get a job and save up money, and or maybe you're at the point where you already have a job and you just need to put in a couple extra hours and lose a little sleep. I'm careful about like telling people to like overwork themselves, because I'm on the fence about it. Like, if you're going to work and then you're coming home and playing video games for 3 hours and spending an hour on music, maybe flip that. You know what I mean? Spend 3 hours on music and spend an hour playing a video game type of thing. Sometimes it's really just reworking your schedule and figuring out how you can spend more time on the thing you want to ultimately do.
Yeah.
But as long as you're putting the work in, putting the effort in, and you're working toward your goal, you just kind of got to trust that the universe is going to bring it to you.
Yeah. I suppose, as you said, there's a time for everything, so that this might not be the time that you should go and do this, but you can build towards that final goal.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who go through insane hurdles that have, lived lives that were 100 times more difficult than, say, my upbringing, that are farther along than I am in less time. It's all circumstance and what you put into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. Because like one of the most encouraging stories amongst the lo-fi community is, like, I'm sure all of us have heard of Eldre, right? And how he blew up with his covers of different cartoon theme songs. Because he was working a day job and he was grinding, and then every evening when he got back, he would go and produce beats and he would make content. And it was sort of that dedication,
Yeah, absolutely. It's like kind of what happened to me. It's almost like a switch goes on in your head and you're like, oh no, this is what I'm going to put all my effort into now.
Yeah. No, because I think that, sometimes maybe we want to have these goals, but we don't work towards them, some people. So that if we just put that effort behind it, the rewards will come in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a whole portion of my life, I went to college. I got two bachelor's degrees, one in English and one in psychology. and I don't use either one of them. Like I used to the only use I ever got out of them was I used to write for a hip hop website, and they sent me to South by Southwest in 2019. So I got to like meet a bunch of people and do like write ups and stuff like that. I got to meet Nardwar, which was cool. But like in some capacity, and that kind of ties into the other question you were asking too about how influences carry over to now. I mean, I'm sure there's things that I picked up in my college years that I'm using today that I don't even realize. Maybe it's how I talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I suppose there's just all those little things that, in the long run, just are like little baby steps that build the big picture. But at that time, we don't realize it until we look back in hindsight. So, yeah. I see that you've been doing like a lot of in-person beat making and things like that on your Instagram. You've been going and playing live, and so you've been making contacts in the lo-fi scene. And so, like, how can this sort of help us grow as artists, and how can this help you get a foothold in the scene? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of smaller cliques within lo-fi specifically. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But like speaking of like the larger community, it's really just through collabs. Really, it's hitting up people who you appreciate their work and you want to work, and maybe having music ready to give them too, because that is usually how you collab, right? um, but I think that, not even the people who are most into lo-fi, I think at least to a degree are like me as well. And I don't only know lo-fi people, you know what I mean? Because it's fairly straightforward. You collab with more people, you get connected to more people, and then eventually, hopefully you'll end up on one of the biggest labels, right? And get a ton of streams and stuff like that. Um, I've been lucky enough, like, oh my God, like in a Discord chat, I honestly don't remember what label it was, but I was just talking with a bunch of people, and I believe you know him too, Saint Rumi.
Yes. Yeah.
I was just talking to him just like another like person in the world, and it ended up he lives 10 minutes away from me, so we get together like as much as possible and just make music, and you know what I mean. And it's cool because he has his connections, I have my connections. We come bring those things together whenever we can, when it makes sense, and you meet more people. Another thing that I did is I made this. I don't want to call it massive. There's maybe like 15 or 20 people in it. It's just all my people that I've collabed with that I've like really hit it off with personal and love their music and everything. I just throw everybody into a group chat, and we all have the same humor. So it ended up being this like, group of people who it's called the Poo Crew. So it's called Taki's Poo Crew. And so like we just share it's respectful though. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not disrespectful. There's people from like, it feels like every continent. There's men, there's women, like it's just all people coming together just because we're all similarly, we appreciate certain kind of humor. We all collab together. People go into the chat and are just like talking about mental health, and it gets deep, it gets funny. And I think creating things like that is extremely important for community, because that's where it all happens, really. You know what I mean? And then that can foster new ideas, that can push new momentum, new I guess ideas again, to create change, because there's let's be real, there's a lot of change that needs to happen in the music industry as well. Even within lo-fi, there's a lot of predatory things that happen, and the only way to learn about that and to become privy to it is, unfortunately, a lot of times to experience it. And then you meet other people who experienced it, and hopefully eventually, that'll end up in positive change. But even just in general, networking is everything. It's how you, especially in music, it's how you build a career. I mean, I feel like in almost any field, you can be great at something, but if you don't have, a place where you can work at, or some type of like a hierarchy you can climb somewhere, it's a lot of times it'll end up in a dead end. But networking is so important. Networking is how I got into this place called Triple Scoop Music, and they ended up taking my music, and People Magazine placed it for me, Entertainment Weekly, New Japan, multiple times too. Networking in like Facebook groups. I had a song on Sirius XM that I didn't even know about for like 2 years until and it's just because I met somebody who I didn't know curates a Sirius XM playlist for the lo-fi thing. And they just added my music, and I didn't know till I learned about Sound Exchange like 2 years after I had released that song. Like, oh, you have like $500 waiting for you. It's like, oh wow, I'm on Sirius XM because the royalties had accumulated over so long before I would collect them. I don't know if like that number is exact, but it was enough for me to be like, whoa. um, I mean, connections just this year that I had made when I was recording people in my studio, like I was talking about my house being a party house years and years and years ago, a singer that had come pretty regularly that my partner at the time and I had made for her. Just through life, you lose contact with people. This year, she hit me up, and I'm playing keys for her. And we're traveling to San Diego because the San Diego Padres are flying us out to play at Petco Park. Her name's Olivia King. Her brother, one of the pitchers on the Padres, his name's Michael King. And he previously had done his like walkout music when he goes to pitch. It's like the music that plays. And so the team invited her, and she asked me to build a band with her. And like we're getting all expenses paid, and they're paying us on top of it. Travel, they're renting gear for us. I don't even have to travel with gear. We've been practicing our butts off for it, but that's just even more testament to that was network from, you know what I mean, just good vibes and just people who like each other and like each other's music, and you never know. And that's why it frustrates me when people, no matter at what level they're at, act like they're either too good or oh, you only have 80,000 monthly listeners. Well, I have 500,000. Yeah, but like there are other aspects to life than just streaming. You know what I mean? And I get that at times in the lo-fi community, and it's too bad that people don't always have that perspective of we're all just human and it's all just numbers. You know what I mean?
No,
Um,
it's so true what you said there, and that we are all just human, and it's all just numbers, and that like no matter who we speak to or whoever it is in the lo-fi community or just in life in general, we need to always be kind and show them love. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Humble.
because just have that, yeah, absolutely have that humility, because like I mean if we're filled with pride, I mean it becomes a block to us, and making contacts with these people, and just
Yeah,
just yeah. So
I was talking earlier about like having a learning mindset in my collabs, and I like shudder to think about if I walked into those, because a lot of those collab experiences aren't people a lot of those are people who saw me, friends seeing me what I'm doing and them wanting, just interested, like, oh, I want to try it, and me just like giving them all the knowledge that I had, like, here, let's make a song together, this is how you release, you need to get a Sound Exchange and ASCAP, and we got to do this and blah 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 blah. Like, I just can't, but I still learned things from those experiences, even though they were like technically, I don't want to word it this way, but like, they were not like on my level kind of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know with that aspect of music. But I still learned from that. And I couldn't, again, I shudder to think about like if I had just scoffed it off as like, no, that's not important enough. You know what I mean? Because again, about the connection and the collaboration.
yeah, it's just having that open mindset and be willing to learn no matter what it is. Like even just hearing that group chat that you have as well, it's like really heartwarming to hear that all of you are just friends at a personal level too, and not don't just see each other as like these producers behind a screen, but we're all human and we all have our own life stories. And so that way that you can have that just deep connection with the other producers and be able to talk to them about everyday things, not just music. It's a whole aspect of the lo-fi community that I love.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can join the chat if you want. Fretless fake. there. Do you work with Jazz Hop Cafe?
Yeah, I've released one tune actually with them before with Rumi.
Oh, nice.
Like, yeah,
Oh, oh, dude, Lena's in there as well.
oh, okay, yeah.
Trying to think of everybody that's in there. Like shout everybody out. Diggy, Brittany, uh, Jay Fletch is in there.
Oh, Colin, love him.
Yeah. Irwin Doe's in there. Uh, I'm gonna feel bad because I'm gonna forget people. My buddy Terry Clark is in there. I had my friend Kevin just recently, Kevin Cochio.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's cool. And people have come and gone over time. You know what I mean? Not everybody does the group chat thing, but
Hmm.
it's still
Yeah,
cool that, in
no.
there.
It's just that part of life, people come, people go, but just no matter who you approach and who you speak to, just always show them love, kindness, and go with a humble and heart that's just ready to learn all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just like as we wrap up this episode now, is there like any sort of final words or like message that you'd like to say to the lo-fi community and whoever listens to this?
Yeah. First of all, if I didn't say it already, I gotta shout out Diggy because they'll get mad at me if I don't. What up, Diggy? I think that uh it's really important to find out how to be yourself and not let the outside noise influence you, at least not too much. Everything is so. I'm a Leo. I believe to some degree about astrology. I'm a Leo and I'm a fire sign, so I tend to dive headfirst into things and go hard with stuff. I also have ADHD and I also am diagnosed with OCD. So all those things together can be a lot to manage, not only in here but to be around too, because I can be an intense person. But my wife is, again, this is another way that she supports me, is she's a Libra, so she's all about balance.
Hmm.
And being a lion fire type person, to have that perspective and find that balance has been one of the most powerful things for me. I think that balance is so important in everything that you do. Nobody's perfect, obviously. Like there are things where I suffer imbalance. I try to work on them. But I think that as long as you go into things with a learning spirit, and you have your balance in mind, uh, it's all about motivation at that point, really. I'm lucky enough that when I meet a lot of people there who are in a spot where it's either like, I haven't produced in a long time, or I always wanted to get into music, or oh, I used to play this, but like not as much anymore. I've always had a way to kind of motivate those people to get back into things, and it's something that I've heard a lot along my journey. So if there's something inside you that wants you to do something, whether it's music or an art or go back to school or whatever it is, you just gotta find a way to motivate yourself to make time for that and balance it with everything else. Because we can all do whatever we want. It's just all about the time and the balance.
Yeah. No, that's definitely words of
And hit
wisdom.
me up. I'll
Yeah.
talk about it with people. I don't care.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So here, anyone who's listening, just pop a message over and yeah, but no, here, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. And it's great to be reminded that no matter what we do, we need to have that open mindset and we need to just be motivated to take that step forward, just that leap of faith to see where it's gonna go and that you never know what could happen. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, man.
Absolutely.
So here, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later. All the
Thank
best.
you.